YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. If you haven't heard about this one, well, you're going to get some good laughs about this latest Psyop created by your government. And the second that this occurred, obviously, we all knew it was a Psyop right off the bat. Now, these aren't even false flags anymore. We don't even have actual victims. We have Jane and John Does who show up on the scene, as you'll see this police officer who had just been hired as a police officer just a few months ago. Kind of like we hear about at these school shootings when the shooter just is brand new to the school. He has no motive whatsoever against any of the new students. In some cases, the shooter showed up, it was the second day of school last year. The shooter showed up a day before school actually started and then decided to shoot up the school. These people come and they go. These are government operatives who are working in government operations. And the headline itself should have been enough to wake anybody up to the fact that this was government manufactured. Police officer dead after an anti-vax shooter targets the CDC headquarters. Every headline out there. Officer killed shooting outside CDC headquarters in Atlanta by gunman who reportedly blamed the COVID vaccine for his illness. So that's a very interesting part of this entire dynamic that automatically tells you it's a government side because it doesn't make any sense. The guy blamed the COVID vaccine for the illnesses that he had, but he was an anti-vaxxer. It's a bit of an oxymoron because if you're an anti-vaxxer, then you're not taking the vaccine, right? And the other thing you could tie into it is that the gunman ended up in a CVS, of all places, a pharmacy, and ended up shooting himself and taking his own life. Was it worth it? He was targeting the CDC. He ends up shooting a cop who has nothing to do with the CDC and then ends up shooting himself. Yeah, it sounds like a great motive. A real positive way to go out in a blaze of glory. I mean, this is an absolute dud of a flop as far as the Psyop goes. They call the guy a deranged suspect. And of course, they put words like deranged in when they're talking about anti-vax. These are all little bullet points they put in to plant seeds in people's minds of what the new terrorist looks like in the United States of America. Anti-science, anti-vax, anti-government. You are now considered deranged in America. And of course, we know one of the tie-ins to this will be misinformation and how misinformation can be deadly. We need stronger trust in science to prevent real tragedies like this one, don't we? Because, of course, that's what the narrative will be, that this guy convinced himself and had mental health problems because he was reading conspiracy theories online. And he started to believe that he was sick when he wasn't sick because he was somebody who went and took the vaccine. And we need to do a better job regulating content on the internet. So I'm going to show you a whole range of things that are going to make you probably giggle if you're somebody who's a longtime subscriber and you know all the calling cards that the government leaves because it's filled with calling cards. So let's start with the initial clip. And I want you to take note that when these reports were going on and they were talking about how the shooter, somehow they found this out within minutes of the shooter, who wasn't even identified yet at the time. They're telling us, well, we talked to family members. So let me get this straight. The shooter's in a CVS. He's shooting bullets. You somehow get the cell phone of the shooter's parents. You call the family, and the family says, well, he was very upset because he got sick from the vaccine. Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense to anybody who has any common sense. And while they're talking about this, take note, because they show you the black and white checkerboard floor. That's just the start of all the Masonic codes in this story. But they went out of their way on all the news stations, all the anchors made sure they were standing right next to the black and white checkerboard floor. You can't make this up. It is so easy to see for those with actual discernment. Take a look.
A new reporting from John Miller. I'm going to read this to make sure I get it correct. The law enforcement official tells John Miller that after speaking with family members, police are operating under the theory that the shooter either was sick or believed that he was sick and blamed the illness on the COVID vaccine. So you understand why he may have been targeting the CDC. That's information that we're getting. And we've also been told that people around that area believe they saw that gun being pointed toward that building. That goes along with the reporting that we had earlier. And of course, I told you about sources telling me we needed to be here around 4:50 because they believed someone was trying to attack the CDC. This person, of course, according to the folks who were outside the CVS, was standing there with what looked like a long rifle, dressed in black, firing toward that building. We have that video that you played at the top of this show where you can hear shot after shot, people saying they heard as many as 30 shots. We believe at that point, an officer, DeKalb County police officer, engaged with the shooter. That officer was shot. We know the suspect was taken down and killed. We're hoping to get more information about how this all played out. Now, that lockdown took place here. We saw hundreds of officers, both federal and local officers, and SWAT teams swarm into this area. It took an hour and a half for me to make it up the hill because the scene here is about a mile up the road. We walked up that way, and it's still pretty much on lockdown. On top of that, you could see the greater community here when it comes to students and parents and people who work in the restaurants and the businesses up there who are either trapped on one side or trying to get the loved ones who were calling them. That tweet that you talked about really stood out to all of us in terms of from the Emory campus talking about hide, run, fight. That was really part of this process here.
So you see the black and white checkerboard, obviously referencing Freemasonry. Every Freemason lodge has a black and white checkerboard floor for anybody who is new to all of this stuff. They are the ones, the deceivers, the ones who are bringing in order out of chaos. They are the ones involved in all these psychological operations. All these members of the CIA, the FBI, they are all members of secret fraternal organizations, whether they go through Ivy League schools like Yale and Skull and Bones, or they go to another Ivy League school like Princeton or Stanford. These schools all have secret societies. These secret societies' core basic principles all go through Freemasonry. So they're all trained in Freemasonry. They're all members of the same fraternal order. Now, we take that and we turn to the actual cop who was supposedly shot. There's a lot of things that you're going to take out of this. Of course, you know, by seeing the cop who was shot, they like to let you know that it was a white male who shot a black cop, because that obviously ties into their race war and their constant race baiting. But what's interesting to note from this news clip you're about to hear is that the cop happened to be, guess how old? 33. And not only was he 33 years old, he was brand new to his job. Like I said earlier, these guys just pop up in these locations. Nobody knows their story because these people just go there. They're part of these active shooter drills, and then they disappear and they're moved to a different location, and you would never remember the face of the person because they don't become famous enough for you to ever see them walking the streets and being able to identify them because you don't know who they are. They're Jane and John Doe's, just like all the parents at Sandy Hook, who we saw there, but we also saw playing multiple roles, right? Who's ever going to forget some of the guys at Sandy Hook, right? The Duping Delight father, or Gene Rosen, or in fact, maybe my favorite, David Wheeler, who played the role of grieving father, who happened to have an IMDb page with lots of acting credits, even though they were bomb-level films, lots of acting credits in his resume. And also, while he was playing the role of a grieving father, happened to show up on the scene as an FBI trained military operative. So go figure, right? But in this case, you will hear the coding. You have a 33-year-old man who's shot and killed, who's new to his job, who just happened to have 2 children and a third on the way.
Authorities are now saying that 33-year-old DeKalb County police officer David Rose was shot while responding to the scene, and he has tragically passed away. He was the father of 2 young children with a third on the way, and he had only been a police officer since March of this year. Authorities say that the suspect is a white male who was known to them, and they haven't ruled out that this shooting was targeted.
So you have your black and white Masonic checkerboard floor, your Masonic checkerboard duality, as above, so below, that we saw deliberately put in place during those news clips. And then, of course, you get your 33 coding, which is to be found at every single government operation. There's always a 33, whether it's an address or the age of the shooter. And in this case, not only do we get his age at 33, but we get a third child on the way, so we get 33-3. And of course, if you don't know why 33 is so significant to the occult, again, it references the age that Jesus Christ was crucified at the age of 33. It also represents 1/3 of the fallen angels, which would be 33.3. So you have your 33 coding. And then there's this. I always show you the repetition in the pattern because there's a really easy way to break free from their spell. And one of the ways to do that is to look at these stories when they happen and look at the local affiliate news because they use the same script. So if they use the same script, it tells you that the script was written and then it was fed to these people in real time because they're on the scene and they're all talking about the same exact thing. And one of the things they want you to hear, which I think is going to be a new code that we're going to be seeing over and over again in these active shooter drills, which are really active shooter drills. They're drills carried out by the CIA, is run, hide, fight. Now, you might remember they made a terrible film. Well, I didn't see it, but it looked absolutely comical, called Run, Hide, Fight, about school shootings and how to stand up to the school shooters, right? This is going to be another thing I think we start to hear more and more of in the news. This is a mind control tactic. Of course, we know predictive programming with run, hide, fight, and I expect to hear this over and over. But you'll hear it now over and over because all these local news stations all wanted to let you know about the post from Emory University and how they were telling everybody to run, hide, and fight and avoid the area over and over and over. So tell me how, during an active shooting event, when the reporters are on the scene, when you don't know what's going on yet, that every one of these news stations somehow has the same exact script. Don't you think that there's editors there? They're independent. Oh, he works in Nebraska, in Omaha. Oh, this guy works in Illinois. That they would say, oh, there's a shooting event here. Okay, let's figure out what's happening. They probably wouldn't even have a script to read off of because it'd be happening in real time, right? Well, here they conveniently all have the same script. And they want you to know exactly what I just told you. Run, hide, fight. It's a rallying cry. And this is just more proof that this is scripted, that they were given a script in advance. It was pre-written. It was sent to them the second this happened, and they're all reading right off of it, and they're all manufacturing the same exact news stories. In some cases, you'll even see in this montage of clips, you'll see two separate news stations use the same exact B-roll footage of, cars lined up. They use the same exact clip and say the same exact sentence, but it's two different news reporters from two different stations, one from New York and one from another state. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Run, hide, Psyop.
Go back up. The sinister sound of gunfire filled the air at around 5 o'clock. Reports of an active shooter. The university putting out 3 simple but bone-chilling directions to students. Run, hide, fight.
Emory also posted on social media that the active shooter was at Emory Point CVS. Run, hide, fight.
Because this could be a very, very dangerous situation, and it's still going on right now. There's a lot that we don't know. Let me show you this tweet on X that we got from Emory that says that their shelter-in-place warning has been lifted right now. But Nancy, when they put that out, you don't know what's going on. If you're a student or faculty here at Emory, you just know that you're supposed to shelter in place. You're supposed to fight back or hide or run.
At one point, university officials posting an urgent warning to students: run, hide, fight. Residents in the area told to stay inside and lock their doors.
An alert sent to the Emory University community was crystal clear: run, hide, fight.
An alert sent to the Emory University community was crystal clear: run, hide, fight.
Campus nearby Emory University sent an alert to its community, warning of an active shooter. The message read, run, hide, fight.
So again, run, hide, fight. They really wanted you to hear that. I think it's going to be a new rallying cry in these false flags or psychological operation events that actually occur. These are calling cards that the government's leaving, giving you scripted news ahead of time. Nobody thinking and asking questions as to why all these local news stations are saying the same exact thing. Why are they all emphasizing on this tweet? Why are they showing you this tweet? Why are they all saying it in real time where supposedly there was still a drill going on, wink, wink, or an actual event going on? That's because it's manufactured. It's manufactured news. The news is fake. It's manufactured. They create these events, whether there's actual victims, where sometimes there are Manchurian candidates who carry out actual shootings, and there are victims who die in false flag operations, or just psychological operations, where you hear gunshots, some Jane or John Doe disappears that you never knew, who was new to his job, And the people around the scene, as you'll hear momentarily, who can't even get their story straight, of saying, well, we didn't really hear gunshots. We thought we heard a hammer. Oh, wait, it was gunshots. I mean, it's always the same exact calling cards. You got your 33, you got your black and white, Masonic, checkerboard. And here I'm going to show you some crisis acting. It's always the best, right? Now I'm going to start with this. I'm going to give you 3 clips here. One is going to be a mother whose story is so fictional and the duping delight is so over the top that you're going to giggle. You can see the woman on the screen. She's pulled over. Just imagine yourself. Your daughter is in an area where you find out on the fake news that there's a gunman on the loose, right? Just imagine. Put yourself in the scenario, right? Close your eyes, okay? Somebody put the TV on. There's a shooter in this town, and your daughter lives in this town. Is this going to be your response? Are you going to get in your car and drive there with a cooler in the back seat? That's what happens here. The mom's got a cooler in the back seat. Now, she tells her daughter, she's like, look, just don't go near the door. Don't go near the windows, okay? Shelter in place. Mom's coming. Well, mom's unarmed. So does it make sense for mom to be driving to the area where there's a shooter on the loose, driving right into the potentially being murdered? No, it makes no sense. But mom is just smiling ear to ear as she tells us about her daughter in the line of fire. Then you'll get another woman who is all over the news. She was interviewed on almost every affiliate news station, bringing up how terrible this is, what the world this is, about the CDC, of course, because that's going to be the underlying theme here. People getting misinformation, targeting government agencies. They've been doing false flags around the CIA, the FBI, and the CDC now, where they want to build up that there's domestic terror threats here, people who are following misinformation and they're going and they're shooting up government agencies. These people need to be stopped. But most importantly, they don't need to be stopped as much as the information online needs to be fully controlled. And then you'll get a guy talking about how he heard hammering, but he grew up around guns his entire life, so he needed the news to tell him that it was gunshots to figure out it was gunshots. Look at these clips.
And those sirens were heard throughout the area.
We talked to a parent and her daughter about the situation.
Miss Briggs, if you could just tell me how you found out what was going on.
My daughter lives right here at Emery Point and just called me. I was on my way to see her tonight and told me what was going on, that she just heard gunshots and that there was an active shooter and that they were on lockdown.
Yeah. What goes through your mind as a parent when you hear something like that, especially in today's times?
Fear. But, I mean, we told her just to stay away from the windows and to, be safe, don't open the door for anyone, and I'll be there soon.
As far as how the situation was handled, several alerts went out from CDC, the police, Emory. Your reaction to the response that we're seeing both on scene and just the way the various agencies and the hospitals and everybody handled this.
The communication was great. Her concern was a lot of different news stories and different channels. I'm not sure what to believe, so I just told her, I'm like, well, I'll get there and I'll see what I can. If it looks safe, then you come out. But she just heard all over that the suspect has been taken care of, and so that they're no longer on a lockdown and she can come out. But I can't go get to her, so now she has to walk to me.
This is really sad, and you get nervous because there's just a lot that's going on right now, and the CDC is a target of it, and it's just really sad that that's the case, and that the fact that this is happening is just. It's just sad and ridiculous, and I hate it, and I have so many, you have so many opinions on it, and all I really care is that my kids are safe, and that's what I'm hearing, and that's what matters.
I heard what I at first thought was maybe construction, people doing roofing work, but the reports just kept coming, and I kind of grew up around guns, and you figure out pretty quickly that this is not a hammer that you're listening to.
So it's pretty comical. Starting with the mother who's smiling ear to ear. If your daughter was potentially in danger, right? I don't think you're really smiling ear to ear. There's no tears. There's no like, oh my goodness, I was frantic. I rushed down there. She's got a cooler in the back seat. So I guess, she's got some sodas, some beers. She wanted to pack up for the road, and she drives down there. And then she's like, oh, now my daughter's going to have to come to me because of the traffic. Oh, your daughter's going to now run down the road to you. You seem fine. You're not nervous that maybe there's another shooter or anything like that. None of it makes sense because they're not supposed to make sense. They put these Eastern Star witches, these Freemasonic actors in place, Dee Millay, Job's daughters, Rainbow Girls, and they, of course, play their role. They don't really know how to act. They're trained to do this stuff, and they're obviously, when you're in these secret societies, you take an oath, and in that oath, you do what you are told, and these people, of course, believe that it's for the betterment of society, that they make good men better. These are all the mottos that these secret societies have. And one of the things they think that'll make society better, of course, is to remove the guns from society. But they're not going to be able to remove guns from everyone's home. They know this. So they at very least want to get these red flag laws in place, which are going to be, it's going to be something that's accepted because the majority of people will go, well, okay, these people have mental health problems. They're just going to label people like me and you as people with mental health problems. We're pushing misinformation because we're talking about, the government doing bad things, poisoning people. People are hearing that, and then they're going out and carrying out these events. And even though we're not telling anyone to carry these events out, we're responsible because we're spreading misinformation. And of course, the red flag laws will apply to us because they'll say that we have mental health problems because we don't trust in government when there's clearly no way, shape, or form that anyone walking the earth should trust in government in the year 2025. Because these psychopaths have shown their true colors. They are proving to you that they are here to divide and conquer. They are proving to you they're creating order out of chaos, and they're proving to you that they're sabotaging our infrastructure to bring in AI governance. So you had the mom cracking up, you had the woman who had to mention the CDC, and she's like, I'm just glad my kids are alive, but the poor CDC. Yes, the CDC is the victim after committing mass genocide. They're the victim. Yes. So is the CIA, so is the FBI, right? So is the FDA. And of course, the other narrative here when this first happened, because the second it happened, I posted in the forum, it was very clear that this was a government op. It was just a matter of what script were they going to give us. It was a script of, is it an anti-vaxxer shooting the CDC, or is it a crazy Dem who is now so upset that the government's pretending that they're going to take away mRNA vaccines when they're not taking away any of that stuff? They're going to relabel these things because they're trying to build back trust. They're just going to tell you it's not mRNA that they're giving you. That's what they're going to do. Oh, we're going to go forward with vaccines, but we promise that they're not mRNA because they know the majority of people will not take gene editing because they've woken up to what CRISPR actually is, what gene editing actually does, how it transforms a human being. So they're trying to build back trust with RFK, like I mentioned, taking out the food dyes and all this other stuff, trying to make America healthy again. And they're going to say, well, we still need vaccines. Well, we don't need those mRNA. We need the ones that used to work, right? Even though the proof is in the pudding with the vaccines like the polio vaccine, which was really used as for the same exact purpose. And mass shedding occurred during the polio vaccine. These are things that they will not actually tell you about. So the second it occurred, it was one of two narratives. Is it an anti-vaxxers taking out vengeance on the CDC? Or is it a crazy Dem who is so mad at the new CDC, because we're supposed to believe it's a new CDC that's trying to make people healthy and are trying to take away mRNA vaccines. But instead what we got, it was a story that really doesn't make sense. An anti-vaxxer who claims to have gotten sick from the vaccine. So if you're an anti-vaxxer, you wouldn't have taken the poison in the first place. So he went and took the poison. Then, on top of that, he kills himself inside of a CVS, of all places, right? He ran into the CVS. Huh? I mean, how much faker can this story get? He ran into the pharmacy, the place where he probably received the vaccine, and then he shot himself in the CVS. And instead of going after, I don't know, I mean, if you're going to go out and you're like, hey, I'm going to do something here, these people are killing us, and I'll risk losing my life. He shoots somebody has nothing to do with it. He shoots a black police officer, which plays into the race bait. He doesn't target somebody like a Fauci or any of these people that we see on TV every day. He just shoots a random police officer, right? Shoots windows. He has no real plan. And then he's like, I'll risk my life for it, and I'll shoot myself in the head inside of CVS. Meanwhile, all the news anchors are revealing the story while there's black and white Masonic checkerboards behind them that they're deliberately showing you, the calling card of the Freemasons. We have a dead officer who's black at the age of 33, who has a third child on the way, who just showed up at the job the last couple of months. They couldn't have been assigned to do this so that they could say, well, we didn't really know much about him. He was new to the force. So probably, we wouldn't know if, he was alive or dead or anything else because nobody really knows who he is. He's like a Jane John Doe, right? And then you get all the other crap like the run, hide, fight narrative, which is going to be, I think, again, predictive programming is another calling card, right? I think this run, hide, fight thing is going to be mentioned more and more in school shootings, in active shooter drills and events. I think this is just a basic mind control tactic that they're going to use for empowerment. Stand up. We get these shooters. We could stand up against these government-created shooter drills that they run. And then every news station's giving you the same script all in real time, right? Oh, is that organic? Did every one of those guys, news anchors, just say, hey, let's go to the even though we're telling everyone that the goal was to shoot the CDC, let's go to the college, university, who, is tweeting out the script from a movie called Run, Hide, Fight and empowering people to run, hide, fight. We're all just going to say it on the air while this is actually occurring and there's boots on the ground, right? Then you get the mom who's smiling ear to ear. I don't know if I've seen somebody smiling so much when her daughter is supposedly in the line of fire and she's like, just stay away from the windows. Just stay away from the windows. Mom's on the way, got the cooler in the trunk, all right? And then mom gets there. Mom's like, I'm in traffic. Why don't you just come run down the street to me? Don't worry, the situation's under control. Don't even think for 1 second that there could be another shooter or something else going on because you don't know what's going on if you're actually, in a real event. If a real shooter was in your neighborhood, okay, would you be, and then the news just goes, the shooter's dead. Would you be hesitant to be like outside? Would you be running the streets, going for a jog 15 minutes after a live shooting event? Would you go, hey, I'm going to take a jog around the block and run a mile. Come run to me. I'm going to run to you. Let's go run. Let's go out there. No, mom's not even nervous that there could be another shooter. She's like, come on down, run. I'm in traffic. This is a bummer. We're not going to get to the beach on time. Just sprint down and, mom's waiting here. Got a couple of cold ones in the back seat. Daughter runs, to mom. And you get the woman talking about the sympathy for the CDC. And of course, the young man who grew up around guns but thought it was a hammer and didn't realize until the news told him it was a gun, that it was a gun. Government operation, ladies and gentlemen, and the headlines speak for themselves. Gunman opens fire. He was angry over the COVID vaccine. This is manufactured news. We live in a manufactured reality. And if you look at how people respond to this stuff, they are straight up sheeple. They're going, oh, of course, it was a white guy who was anti-vaxxer targeted a black police officer, right? And they buy into all the government psychological ops because sheeple is as sheeple does. The sheeple does not think for itself. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. Let me know what you thought of these clips in the comment section below. I mean, pretty unbelievable, pretty easy to see through this stuff, For those with eyes to see and ears to hear, most people don't want to see through it. They actually enjoy the production. They love living in the Psyop. They love being enemies with their neighbors. They love talking to other people, as if they're they're activists and they're going to bring in change. They don't even realize they're living in a simulation. That they're doing everything the government wants them to do. That everything that they think is real is not real, and they just love it. They love it. They're living in a alternate universe, folks. Thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.